It has been an incredibly tough couple of months for our entire family.
Ending weeks of global speculation, the Princess of Wales has announced she has cancer and is undergoing chemotherapy. The treatment being described as preventative after she had abdominal surgery earlier this year. Good evening. We'll have more on the announcement from the princess in just a few minutes, but we begin tonight with something affecting many people's ability to get around.
A snowfall warning is in effect for the city. Almost 20 centimeters expected to fall by later tonight. CTV's Beth McDonnell has been following the snow all day and joins us live with the latest. Beth?
Sean, Michelle, someone said to me today, feels like Christmas, and it does look like it could be December, but it's March and it's spring, and this wintry weather certainly took some by surprise. Falling snow. It's the kind of winter weather we expect to see in winter, showing up instead one day into spring.
I think the weather is very confused because we had a whole winter with no snow and we get it in the spring.
The City of Toronto's fleet has kicked into high gear, applying liquid brine across the city before dispatching trucks for rounds of salting ahead of rush hour.
We anticipate that the plowing operations will begin after rush hour and continue throughout the entire evening.
At Pearson, travelers are being told to check flights and allow for extra time on roads to get to the airport.
We might have to reduce the amount of flights that can take off. The airlines from there are able to modify their schedules. So we tried to make sure that everybody within the airport ecosystem has as much notice as possible so that people aren't coming to the airport and finding out their flights are canceled by the airline when they get here.
To speed up the messy commute, the TTC will add buses to some routes, while service at dozens of stops was suspended this afternoon to keep riders moving. For those behind the wheel, avoiding slips and safety is top of mind.
You never know this weather until April 30th. We should have all the tires, winter tires, and that's all I have.
Snow in March is not uncommon, but it was a warm, dry winter, and for many, the timing feels off.
I actually missed the snow this year because, we need some snow. It's not coming at the right time, but there's a lot of people that depend on the snow to work.
You start to think, all right, spring, I can accept it. And then all of a sudden the winter comes.
It doesn't look like spring, looks like winter still. Just looking forward for the spring, really. The real spring. Yeah, the real spring, yeah.
Although the feel of living in a snow globe can be magical.
Bring it on, and we can handle it. The more, the better.
I'm so happy that snow is back. Finally, I can see white winter.
And a snow day does have its perks.
Getting to go home early today because of the snow. It's a great Friday, It's a long weekend for me right now.
Whether that snow falls in winter or spring. The city has 1,400 pieces of snow removal equipment. Officials are asking people to be patient. The city says depending on how much snow falls, crews may need to do more than one sweep to remove and clear the snow. Reporting live, I'm Beth McDonnell. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Beth. And this is a live look at the city this hour. There is that snowfall warning in effect. The rate of the snowfall predicted has the potential to make driving dicey. Drivers not liking this. Kids probably loving it. And Jessica Smith is live along Queens Quay tonight with a look at the current conditions. How are they, Jess?
It's a little bit messy out here. We're looking at about 5 centimeters here, Michelle, down by the water. We're here along Queens Quay in the Music Garden, and the snow has been steady. This afternoon, the roads were still relatively clear, although the snow has been steady since this morning, but now they are snow covered and the system is sitting over us. The commute is going to be slow for many, so take your time as you head out on the roads this evening. Now, this Colorado low is going to sit over us as we head in towards midnight, so plan on this sticking around for a while. There's that line. You can see it from Goderich down to London all the way across towards Kingston. We're still under the snowfall warning here in the city, around 15 centimeters. A little further east, we could be closer to that 20 centimeter mark, but really all of southern Ontario affected by this system. As we head in towards the rest of our evening, it is getting cooler. We're at -4 right now, feeling like -10. It feels like -10 through Kingston, and as we get in towards the evening, it is going to get chilly. So just keep that in mind. If you're going to get out and walk the dog, I've seen a lot of folks out here with their dogs, even some really brave people out for a jog. Layer up accordingly for yourself and your pets. And when it comes to the road, just drive according to the road and weather conditions. Coming up, I'll have a full look at your long-range forecast, including how long the white stuff is likely to stick around. But for now, Michelle, I'll send things back inside.
Thank you, Jess. Well, we turn to our other top story this evening. Catherine, Princess of Wales, revealing she's been diagnosed with cancer.
The announcement comes after months of speculation about her health and amid questions over the monarchy's handling of the situation.
I guess she's certainly in for a journey, and I hope she'll be all right.
But at least now everybody knows, and I think she'll be embraced.
A mixture of shock and sympathy at this British goods store in Whitby this afternoon, echoing similar sentiments from supporters of the royal family across the globe. This comes after a bombshell announcement from Catherine, the Princess of Wales. The last official appearance from the Queen-to-be was on Christmas Day with other members of the royal family in Sandringham. A few weeks later, she was hospitalized for abdominal surgery for what was described as a non-cancerous condition. In a video message shared today, Catherine clarified what's been happening since then.
The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment.
Catherine says the diagnosis came as a huge shock, and it wasn't possible to share it with the public right away.
It has taken me time to recover from major surgery in order to start my treatment. But most importantly, it has taken us time to explain everything to George, Charlotte and Louis in a way that's appropriate for them and to reassure them that I'm going to be okay.
Royal commentators say the timing of today's announcement was carefully chosen.
The children are beginning their school holidays in the United Kingdom today for the Easter period. So they will have an opportunity as a family to process this further, because once the information becomes public, of course, all their people at the school the children go to are going to be aware of it as well.
There had been rampant speculation over where Kate was or why the palace was being tight-lipped about her condition. Questions only intensified after the release of a photo featuring the princess and her children on UK Mother's Day, which was later revealed to be digitally altered.
I think it's striking the balance between accountability and privacy is extremely important in this case for the royal family and definitely for the Waleses. And I think this statement, seeing the Princess of Wales herself, is a real step forward towards that accountability.
Catherine's diagnosis comes as King Charles continues his own battle with cancer. The princess didn't share when she expects to return to public life, but said she's getting stronger every day.
Well wishes for the Princess of Wales have been pouring in since the news was made public this afternoon. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says he wishes her a full and speedy recovery. A spokesperson for President Joe Biden called the news incredibly sad. And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau released a tweet which reads, "My thoughts are with the Princess of Wales, her children, and the entire royal family following the news of her cancer so courageously shared. On behalf of Canadians, I'm sending my support as she undergoes treatment. We're all wishing her a swift recovery." Ahead on CTV News at 6 tonight, claims of extra billing in Ontario's health ministry. Siobhan Morris investigates how it's happening and why the ministry won't say who's behind it.
2 people are dead after a crash in Hamilton this morning. It happened just before 10:45 on Highway 52 near Powerline Road. According to Hamilton police, this crash involved 2 cars. Both occupants of one of those vehicles, a man and a woman in their 80s, were killed. The driver of the other vehicle, a woman in her 50s, was taken to hospital with injuries described as not life-threatening. Investigators are looking for anyone who might have been in the area at the time of the crash, who might have dash camera footage.
Responsible for 2 brutal homicides back in 1983, Joseph George Sutherland lived a life on the run for nearly 40 years.
Late this afternoon, he received his sentence for those murders, a sentence that will likely see him spend the rest of his life behind bars. CTV's Mike Walker is live outside a snowy courthouse tonight with the latest. Mike.
Well, Michelle, Sean Sutherland, who is in his early 60s, faces an automatic life sentence. What the judge had to decide was his parole ineligibility. The judge said at today's sentencing, given the gravity of the 2 murders, that must be at the higher end. 4 decades after Aaron Gilmore and Susan Tice were brutally murdered months apart, justice has been served. A judge sentenced Joseph George Sutherland to life in prison with no chance of parole for 21 years. For the families, there is closure, and now healing can begin. Sean McCowan is Aaron Gilmore's brother.
You know, you look back on this, and 2.5, 3 years ago, this wasn't even a factor. It wasn't even going to be the ending, right? So it's a pretty good day at the end of it.
This past October, Sutherland pleaded guilty to 2 counts of second-degree murder in connection with the deaths of Susan Tice and Aaron Gilmore. The court heard Tice, a 45-year-old mother of 4, was stabbed to death after being sexually assaulted in her home in August 1983. 4 months later, 22-year-old Erin Gilmore was also stabbed to death and sexually assaulted in her Yorkville apartment just days before Christmas. The 2 murders that Mr. Sutherland committed were profoundly serious. They were killed in their homes, which should have been places of sanctuary. The impact of the violence has continued to be felt by other victims, in this case, families and friends. Justice Maureen Forstill said,
This has been dogging all of us for 40 years, and we wanted to find out, who did it and why and what this guy's name was, and finally we got there.
Sutherland was unknown to police until investigators made a break in the case decades later, following advances in DNA technology. That led them to Sutherland in Moosonee. He confessed to a retired OPP officer and was arrested in 2022.
Accepts that what he did was horrendous, and he did clear his conscience, and I believe him when he tried to express that in his statement to the court, that he tried to be a better man after the second killing.
He had 40 years to sort of come forward and express his real remorse, and there was never a shred of it to anybody, right?
Sutherland was 21 years old at the time of the murders. In a sentencing report, court heard Sutherland did not provide reasons for committing the murders. He said he didn't remember killing Susan Tice and vaguely remembered killing Erin Gilmore, a notion the judge rejected, saying he had sufficient memory to admit to the murders and knew what police would find when his DNA was collected. Sutherland is 62 years old. He will be eligible for parole when he's in his early 80s. The families of Erin Gilmore and Susan Tice say when that day comes, they'll be there to make sure he is not released. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike.
It was the second day on the stand for Toronto Police Sergeant Lisa Forbes, who testified at the trial of the man accused of killing her partner, Detective Constable Jeffrey Northrup. Forbes had told jurors yesterday that the SUV driven by Umar Zamir had made 5 maneuvers in an effort to leave the underground parking garage at Toronto City Hall on the night of the incident. Today, Zamir's lawyers showed new security footage from the garage that they say contradicts Forbes' account of the events. During her testimony, Forbes broke down emotionally on the stand and needed a short break before continuing.
Police in Quebec confirmed they're investigating whether 2 suicides in that province may be linked to a GTA man currently facing more than a dozen murder charges. Longueuil police tell CTV News they believe 2 people who died in their jurisdiction may have had a connection with Kenneth Law. The 58-year-old Mississauga man has been charged with 14 counts of first-degree murder and 14 counts of counseling or aiding suicide. Law is currently awaiting trial and has pleaded not guilty to all charges.
Police in Durham Region are looking for witnesses after an attack with a baseball bat at an area high school. It happened just after noon yesterday at Father Leo Austin Catholic Secondary School in Whitby. Durham police say when they arrived on the scene, they located a youth with head injuries. He was taken to hospital. Police say his injuries are not life-threatening. Investigators say a group of 5 or 6 males left the area in a vehicle.
Still to come tonight, a warning for those planning to take the GO trains this weekend. A major line closure will mean a change of plans for thousands coming in and out of the city. We are learning tonight almost 200 complaints have been made about extra billing for health services in this province.
But the names of Ontario physicians and facilities found to have engaged in the rule-breaking practice are being kept secret by the Health Ministry. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris joins us live now with more. Siobhan?
Well, the idea here is some level of protection for medical practitioners and their places of work. But I talked to the NDP health critic who said that what would really help here is some more transparency to build trust in the system.
It's a common refrain from the Ford government.
Anything to do with health, I can promise you one thing, you'll be paying with your OHIP card. You're never going to be paying with your credit card.
That's not always true. Some medical practitioners do bill patients for services that should be covered by health insurance, or upgrades on accommodations, medical devices, and patient transfers. Data obtained by CTV News through Freedom of Information shows between January 2021 and the end of December 2022, there were 183 complaints about extra billing in Ontario. 49 of those were substantiated. But the names of the rule-breaking doctors, where they work, are being kept secret.
Right now in Ontario, we have zero transparency
and very low accountability.
The government explains sharing could prejudice the competitive position of a person or an organization. Critics reason with billions of dollars being funneled through OHIP, we should know more.
When you know that there is no oversight, when you know that there is no transparency, there's a lot less pressure on people to do the right thing.
Ontario's patient ombudsman isn't a fan of naming and shaming. He says most organizations want to deliver good care and are quick to make fixes when his office flags a problem. The calls for transparency have been getting louder as the province licenses more private clinics to perform procedures like cataract surgeries, knee and hip replacements.
If we find examples where individuals have been inappropriately charged for OHIP-funded services, there is a process where the patient gets reimbursed and the practice must be shut down.
The Minister of Health says she's working with other provincial and federal leaders on expanding access to care. But there's no sign of a policy shift to share more data on bad actors.
We learned in January that Accreditation Canada will be overseeing those private clinics, making sure that they follow all the rules. We expect a framework for how that will be done sometime in the next week. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Sean, back to you.
Thanks, Siobhan. Premier Doug Ford was in Hamilton this morning for another housing announcement. The Premier handed over a check worth more than $17.5 million to Mayor Andrea Horwath. The cash comes from the Provincial Building Faster Fund in exchange for Hamilton exceeding its 2023 housing targets. But as the Premier pushes more growth, he's repeated his opposition to legislation allowing fourplexes to be built province-wide.
Queen's Park doesn't know best. Instead, I believe in collaboration. I believe in working together. I believe in setting clear targets and holding municipalities accountable and rewarding them for their success.
Back in 2022, the province's Housing Affordability Task Force recommended overriding municipal rules to approve 4-unit properties across Ontario. The NDP and Liberals say they support fourplexes. The Premier called the idea a massive mistake.
The TTC is launching a new campaign to make sure riders are paying their fares on transit. Officials have unveiled posters with the slogan, "Fare is fair," and have added staff to focus on fare compliance as well as safety and security. This follows an internal audit that revealed fare evasion was at an all-time high last year. The TTC estimating it lost out on nearly $124 million in revenue in 2023, with nearly 12% of rides going unpaid.
This isn't about people who cannot afford to pay. This is about making sure that people who can afford to pay are paying. And that number, 124 million, that's what we know of. I mean, that's based on our audit. It may be higher than that. And the significance is that that's money that goes into our operations. It goes into keeping fares where they are today. I know people think that our fares are already too high. They would have to go up if we can't recover some of that money.
Stuart Green says those unpaid fares have a real impact on the service the TTC is able to provide, and riders can expect an increased presence of fare inspectors on the network.
An important note for people coming into the city this weekend: there will be no service on the GO train's Lakeshore West line all weekend long. After 11 o'clock tonight, Metrolinx says trains will stop operating until Monday between West Harbour GO and Union Station. Replacement buses will stop at Aldershot, Burlington, Oakville, and Clarkson GO, but no other stops. The TTC says it will run extra subway and streetcar service to make up for the lack of GO service.
The City of Toronto has given Rogers Communication the green light to use artificial intelligence to help solve gridlock. Rogers will be setting up a series of cameras and sensors at 5 downtown intersections that will track the movement of vehicles, pedestrians, and cyclists. City Council okayed the plan Thursday. The cameras and sensors will be set up along University Avenue at Adelaide, King, Wellington, and Front Streets, as well as York Street and Bremner Boulevard.
Today marks the end of 4 days of public visitations for former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney.
His body is lying in repose in Montreal ahead of tomorrow's state funeral. CTV's Heather Butts has more.
In the heart of Montreal, St. Patrick's Basilica is rich in history and culture. It has served the Irish community since 1847, a community the former Prime Minister cherished. Honoring his Irish heritage, the family chose this space for 2 days of lying in repose.
So there's close ties, but the Irish tie is obviously very significant.
In happier times, this was a space marked by celebration for the Mulroney family. Ben Mulroney was married in the chapel. His younger brother Nicholas had his confirmation here. Today, the signs of sorrow and grief on the face of Mila Mulroney, honoring her late husband and comforting family before greeting visitors for a fourth and final day.
It is remarkable for the individuals that come in to pay their respects because they're not necessarily expecting it.
This has offered Quebecers a chance to pay their respects, sharing their gratitude as they grieve alongside the family.
He did a lot of good deeds for the country, but also for the the First Nations communities or Indigenous peoples in Canada.
I'm a little emotional because, as we say in French, c'est un grand personnage. Normally do for people that we highly respect and regard.
The state funeral set for Saturday is expected to be comprised of religious elements, along with music, several eulogies, and personal moments. A farewell not only to a former prime minister, but a husband, father, and grandfather.
Without giving it away, there's a lot of personal moments in the funeral itself, with the readings, with the song by the granddaughter.
A procession will leave from here at St. Patrick's tomorrow morning and travel a few blocks to Notre Dame Basilica for the funeral. A final farewell to the former prime minister. It will be a very solemn day, but also a celebration of Canadian life and history. Heather Butts, CTV News, Montreal.
In Russia, at least 40 people were killed when gunmen opened fire prior to a concert today. 146 others were hurt in the attack at a city hall in a suburb west of Moscow. Russian media say several gunmen burst into the hall using explosives that set off a massive blaze. IRA is reporting the assailants are presumably at large. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attack.
Russia has launched one of its biggest missile and drone attacks of the war against Ukraine. The strikes killed at least 5 people and targeted energy infrastructure in at least 10 regions across the country. More than 1 million households were without electricity. Ukraine's largest hydroelectric power complex was hit. Both electricity generating plants on site suffered massive damage.
At the United Nations, the Security Council failed today to pass a U.S. resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. It was vetoed by Russia and China.
So let's be honest, for all the fiery rhetoric, we all know that Russia and China are not doing anything diplomatically to advance a lasting peace or to meaningfully contribute to the humanitarian response effort.
The proposal included an immediate truce lasting about 6 weeks that would protect civilians and allow for the delivery of humanitarian assistance. The resolution was part of a deal that also called for the release of hostages being held by Hamas.
Israel's prime minister rejected calls today by the visiting U.S. Secretary of State not to launch a ground invasion of Rafah.
We share Israel's goal of defeating Hamas, which is responsible for the worst massacre of the Jewish people since the Holocaust. And we share the goal of ensuring Israel's long-term security. As we've said, though, a major military ground operation in Rafah is not the way to do it.
Antony Blinken met with Benjamin Netanyahu, who told him Israel is prepared to continue its war against Hamas alone. More than 1 million people have crowded into Rafah as they flee fighting across Gaza. The Gaza Health Ministry says more than 32,000 Palestinians have been killed in the territory since the war began.
Photos from the Mars rover are giving scientists a new perspective on an age-old quandary. The images suggest water on the red planet was more abundant than expected, and Mars stayed wetter for much longer than previously thought. All this gives a better indication of where to look for any life that might have existed there long ago.
Still to come tonight, Flair Airlines announces a large-scale reduction in the number of future flights they're planning, why the discount carrier says it needs to fly fewer flights.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, more businesses in Toronto are raising concerns about the growing number of break-ins in the GTA. One company says it's been broken into 7 times in the past year and says it's almost impossible to get business insurance. I'll have my reports just ahead.
And the snow continues as we head through the rest of our evening, so give yourself extra time if you're heading out on the roads. We're watching for snow to increase, and the rate of snowfall is also going to increase as we head in towards kind of the later part of our evening until about midnight. So give yourself that time if you're traveling anywhere. It's also going to get quite windy as we approach midnight, so factor that in. It's going to be one of those nights. It gets better though as we head into the day. Tomorrow, your full forecast coming up. And stay with us. We have another great night of shows for you right here on CTV.
Welcome back. Toronto police say there's been a 40% increase in the number of break-ins in the city over the past 6 months.
The situation is becoming such a problem. A summit was held earlier this month to deal with the rise in criminal activity. Pat Foran joins us now with a consumer alert. Pat.
Thanks, Michelle. And Sean, after the summit, we heard from other small businesses who say they've also been broken into more than once. One company had 7 break-ins in the past, and it's having difficulty finding insurance to stay open. Pipe Tool Supply Limited in North York has been in business for 106 years. It's a busy store selling tools and heavy equipment for construction, plumbing, and other trades. Karen Weidenfelder took over the business from her father and has been working here for the past 50 years.
We have press tools, we have drills, hammer drills, sawzalls, circular saws, everything.
She recently saw her story on a summit held by the City of Toronto to deal with the rising number of break-ins.
We just can't have criminals kicking in front doors all over the city.
You were worried you wouldn't be able to insure this business.
That's right. I thought that was it. I was done.
Weidenfelder says her business is under constant threat of being broken into.
Since 2023, as I was reading my proof of loss, there's been about 7 or 8 break-ins. I mean, destroying the walls, the windows, the doors.
After the last break-in she had, she was dropped by her insurance company.
Then my insurance company canceled me in January or December. They declined giving me insurance, and I panicked. Did we get that order from Bridget all right? Did they put it away? Did. Yes, we did. Perfect.
Her daughter Candace wants to continue with the family business, but sometimes Weidenfelder wonders if it's worth it.
Isn't it better just to try and sell maybe, or just liquidate and get out?
After searching for almost 2 months and making upgrades in her security, Weidenfelder was able to get insurance, but hopes she won't have to make a claim. She says other businesses are facing the same problem and feels break-and-enter crime should be taken more seriously by the justice system.
Your best bet is to just bolt down as best as you can with new lightings, cameras, sirens, all that stuff. And hopefully they don't get in.
And Toronto police stats show last year there were more than 7,000 break-ins. Almost 4,000 were residential break-ins, while just over 3,000 were into commercial businesses. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Flair Airlines has reduced its spring schedule by more than 600 flights as it makes cost-saving cuts due to its domestic network. Flair's schedule changes come as the airline faces a tax repayment bill worth $67 million. Financial issues continue to hit the low-cost airline industry in Canada hard. This announcement coming less than a month after Lynx Air ceased flying due to economic concerns. And air travel impacted by the snow this hour. We are enjoying a spring snow event as we speak.
And Jessica Smith is on the ground tonight dealing with stuff like this we're seeing outside. Jessica, how you doing out there?
I'll be honest, I've been warmer in my life, but to be fair, it's not that bad. We've seen colder days, right? We're down here by the water. That obviously adds a little bit to the snowfall. And we're looking at about 5 centimeters here on the ground. The snow continues to the rest of that evening commute, so be careful. Weather is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train. Now, we've seen the snow kind of trickle its way in. It wasn't too bad into the lunch hour. We saw a decent amount of, snow coming down, but the roads were clear. Different story now. We're at -4, feeling like -8. Out towards Ottawa, they're pretty even keel, but we are going to see temperatures drop this evening. For us here in the city, we'll be at -5, feeling like -9. Goderich -10, Waterloo -10, Bancroft -13. Heading into the day tomorrow, we do warm up slightly, a little closer to seasonal. 3 degrees for the high, still feeling like -1, and everybody warming up just a little, and the sunshine does return. Now, we've seen this Colorado low slowly make its way in, and it's going to continue tracking its way across that line there that really stretches from Goderich all the way across towards Kingston and through to Ottawa. Ottawa will get kind of the brunt of this heading into the day tomorrow before it really starts to clear out late morning. Timing everything out for the rest of our evening commute, it's not all that bad out there. We're looking at the flurries kind of holding on as we head in towards the evening. And then really and truly, as we get into our Saturday morning, it's going to be relatively clear. High pressure moves in, and then we'll start to see things start to warm up just a little. Now, heading in towards Sunday, things are going to cool off a little, but it remains very, very sunny. It really isn't until Monday that things start to warm back up pretty significantly, and then it will start to change. Getting into our Saturday and Sunday, again, right around 3 for your high Saturday, fairly seasonal, a little cooler heading into Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, identical forecast, a little more sunshine as we head in towards our Monday. Into Tuesday, we are looking at a little more cloud cover rolling in, and this is ahead of another system set to make its way in for us. Heading in towards our Thursday, we'll see a daytime high right around 5 degrees, and heading in towards Easter, although it is a little cooler out there, we'll see a daytime high right around 6. So overall, it's not too terrible as we kind of settle in towards the Easter holiday. We'll switch gears here. The $1.2 million bonus prize deadline in the Princess Margaret Home Lottery is tonight at midnight. Imagine winning a stunning downtown condo in Toronto with breathtaking views of Lake Ontario. Plus, you'll get a $50,000 cash prize. You're also in for over 20,000 incredible prizes valued at more than $19 million, including $7.3 million grand prize featuring an incredible breathtaking show home in King City, a Jaguar I-Pace, plus $500,000 in cash. A stunning $3.3 million Blue Mountain grand prize with a show home plus cash, and a charming $2.2 million grand prize with a show home also plus cash. And with a country home in Prince Edward County. And let's not forget the much-loved, world-famous $2.6 million grand prize with a breathtaking Lake Muskoka cottage. And plus, you can win big cash prizes with the 50/50 and cash calendar add-ons. Every ticket gives you a chance to win life-changing money and support the Princess Margaret. You can pick up your tickets at princessmargaretlotto.com or call 1-866-631-1234. I'll send things back inside.
Thanks, Jess. Still ahead, he was named the best athlete in Canada, and tonight he's at home to play against the Raptors. This Canadian NBA superstar says he loves playing in Toronto. Welcome back. March 26th is Purple Day around the world, a day to build awareness about epilepsy.
Our health reporter Pauline Chan spoke with the founder of Purple Day about its progress over the past 16 years.
Cassidy Megan says she doesn't remember a lot of her first Purple Day in 2008. Memory issues are just a part of what she deals with as a person living with epilepsy. Stigma is another.
They know you have epilepsy, so they fake a seizure and then laugh with their friends. Unfortunately, there is still a lot of stigma and discriminations with it.
But as a model, film sound recordist, and health advocate, she admits she hasn't faced as many problems as some people with the condition, many of whom have trouble finding a job.
They've been let off work because it's a safety hazard, or they're taking too many breaks and they're still in their probation period, so the workplace gets rid of them.
We want everyone to know that epilepsy is not a rare disease. It might be a hidden disease, but it's not a rare disease. Over 300,000 Canadians have epilepsy.
Dr. Edward Berkovich says most patients manage very well with treatments.
For the majority of patients, they can actually do quite well with a little bit of medication, and they can become seizure-free and go on with their lives. But for some patients, they have difficulty controlling seizures with medications. And for those patients, we can look into some other options. So there's epilepsy surgery. And for a few other types of patients, there is medical marijuana or CBD, and that's another option.
Megan refuses to let epilepsy define her, and her workplace accommodates her needs.
If we're filming and there's too much flashing lights, I can go into a different room.
And understanding is what Purple Day is all about.
The Port Credit Lighthouse gets lit purple. Mississauga City Hall gets lit purple. The CN Tower gets lit purple.
Purple Day is held on March 26th, and it's celebrated in more than 85 countries. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
Health Canada has issued a recall for a toy that sold thousands of units across Canada, citing a safety hazard. The recall covers the Fisher-Price Little People Mickey and Friends figure packs. The concerning items are the Donald Duck and Daisy Duck figures. The recall warns that their heads can separate and pose a choking risk. The pack being recalled has a model number of HPJ88, and it's written on the bottom of the Goofy figure. Health Canada says to stop using the toys and contact Mattel for a refund.
He was born in Toronto, grew up in Hamilton, and is now one of the best basketball players in the world.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Oklahoma City Thunder is taking on the Raptors tonight at Scotiabank Arena. The All-Star says playing here is always special. Being handed his Northern Star Award as the top athlete in Canada, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the 25-year-old NBA superstar from Hamilton, sees the award as part of accomplishing the unthinkable.
It's hard to put into words, just because growing up, seeing guys like Steve Nash get it, and seeing kind of how far I've come. Like seeing the award and seeing Steve Nash accomplish things in the NBA seems so far away as a kid. It almost seemed like it wasn't possible, but to be here and be able to kind of accomplish some of the things that he's been able to accomplish has been special.
Gilgeous-Alexander drives, banks it home, and a foul.
SGA, as he's known, won the award last December, something current teammate and fellow Canadian Lou Dort says he's proud of.
It's great. I mean, it's a big award for Canada, all the Canadian athletes, and it's huge to have my teammate and one of my brothers see achieve that award, and I'm really happy for him.
In Toronto to play the Raptors, SGA says he relishes his only opportunity to play in his home country this season.
I'm excited. Never gets old, playing in front of family and friends.
And this season, the Oklahoma City Thunder point guard has put up MVP-like numbers, averaging 30.9 points, over 6 assists, and over 5 rebounds per game. Head coach Marc Daniel says it's an important date on the calendar.
He loves coming here, I know that. But we love coming out here. The fans always do a great job of receiving him and Lou. He obviously represents his hometown and his country very well on and off the court, and we're happy to be a part of that.
The three, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Born in Toronto and growing up in Hamilton, Gilgeous-Alexander has taken pride in playing for Team Canada. When asked who should play alongside him this summer at the Paris Olympics.
Great question. Great question. I would stay out of it.
He says Canada now has so much talent that anyone selected will make the team competitive.
Canada has won gold in the Paris competition at the World Figure Skating Championships for the first time since 2016. Deanna Stellato-Dudek and Maxime Deschamps captured the title with a personal best total score of 221.56. And with the win, 40-year-old Stellato-Dudek is now the oldest woman to win a world title in that sport's history. The duo are two-time national champions.
The first major rehearsal for the Olympic torch relay was held today. It took place in a town about 100 kilometers outside of Paris. 10,000 people will participate in the relay this summer. The games run from July 26th to August 11th. They'll be followed by the Paralympics that will see its flame carried by 1,000 people.
Nearly 40 years after he was first summoned, one of the most famous ghosts in film history is back for another movie, The Return of Beetlejuice, still to come on CTV News.
Dishing out desserts. Monday on CP24 Breakfast. Get quick and tasty treat ideas the whole family will be sweet on. CP24 Breakfast, where Toronto gets its everything every morning.
Tests after the operation found cancer had been present. My medical team therefore advised that I should undergo a course of preventative chemotherapy, and I'm now in the early stages of that treatment.
Updating our top stories, the Princess of Wales was diagnosed with cancer and is undergoing chemotherapy. After weeks of global speculation, the royal family released a video in which the princess talks about her recovery from surgery and how the news has affected her family. As with the king's cancer diagnosis, specific details about her medical condition are not being released.
Embrace the snow, embrace the winter, don't fight it, just enjoy it.
Well, it may not be enjoyable for commuters on this Friday night, but the snow continues to fall across a large part of the province. It's expected to taper off a little later tonight.
We wanted to find out, who did it and why and what this guy's name was, and finally we got there.
More than 40 years after committing 2 brutal murders, Joseph George Sutherland has been sentenced to life behind bars. Sutherland was only arrested for the homicides in 2022 after investigative advances in DNA technology.
Remember to keep up to date day and night through our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca, and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, please let us know.
In business, Canadian stocks slipped today after closing at a record in the previous session. Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg explains.
Hello there. Toronto's benchmark stock index slipped about 0.5% today after ending at a record high on Thursday. Selling in banks and energy stocks pulled the index down. The US S&P 500 benchmark also dropped a little amid lingering fears that the Federal Reserve may in fact hold back from cutting interest rates 3 times this year. There were signs of cooling speculation in the markets as Bitcoin dropped 3% to trade below $64,000 US, down from record highs above $73,000 last week. Rapid sales growth at Lululemon just isn't enough for some investors. Shares in the seller of athletic wear slumped 16% after the company predicted sales growth of 11 to 12% this fiscal year. That would be down from 19% growth it posted in the previous 12 months. Visits to US stores have slowed and shoppers bought slightly less. Mind you, the yoga maker is known for producing cautious financial forecasts. And finally, the Globe and Mail says Canada's banking regulator is curbing the number of highly leveraged loans in residential mortgages. The Office of the Superintendent of Financial Institutions has apparently told lenders they must limit loans to borrowers with mortgages greater than 4.5 times their annual income limit, and it would start in the first quarter of next year. OSFI told BNN Bloomberg the measure means that institutions can only have a certain percentage of their mortgages in excess of 4.5 times loan to income. It doesn't apply to any one borrower. Checking in on the markets, the Canadian dollar was at 73.48 US cents, down almost half a cent. WTI oil, North America's benchmark, changed hands at $80.63, down 44 cents. Western Canadian Select Oil, Alberta's bellwether grade, traded at $67.87, down $2.70. And the TSX Composite finished the week at 21,984.08, down just over 103 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
As Toronto fans count down to Olivia Rodrigo's concerts here next week, she's out with a new music video.
Every time you call my name, I think you mistake me for her.
Rodrigo dropped the video for her song Obsessed at midnight alongside a previously unheard track from her recent album Guts. The Guts tour plays Scotiabank Arena on March 29th and 30th.
36 years after the original debut, the first trailer is out for the upcoming Beetlejuice sequel.
The juice is loose.
Warner Brothers shared the sneak peek for Tim Burton's follow-up to the 1988 horror comedy classic. It sees Michael Keaton return in the title role alongside original stars Winona Ryder and Catherine O'Hara, and there's newcomer Jenna Ortega. Beetlejuice hits theaters in September.
The latest film in the Ghostbusters franchise is aiming to spook its way to #1 at the box office this weekend.
Unimaginable evil, commanding an army of ghosts.
Ghostbusters Frozen Empire reunites stars from the 80s original and the 2021 Afterlife sequel for the 5th title in the series. Variety reports it's on track to rake in well over $40 million US over the weekend across North America.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special Friday shout out to those of you listening to the newscast live on Newstalk 1010.
Welcome back. An ancient frog has been discovered in Texas. Well, sort of. The ancient fossil has been named after Kermit the Frog, called Kermitops gratus. It is the fossilized skull of a creature that lived in what is now Texas about 270 million years ago. It belongs to a lineage believed to have given rise to the 3 branches of amphibians, one of them, frogs.
Here at home, snowy, slow going, cold. Jess has been amidst all of this spring storm. How's it going?
Still very snowy out here, but there's lots of folks walking down by Queens Quay. They have all the winter gear on, a lot of pets out here enjoying the wintry weather. It is going to continue as we head into the evening, and we're looking at that kind of 15, maybe 20 centimeter mark a little bit further east in the downtown core. We're looking at about almost 10 now, so it's going to continue as we head in towards our overnight. And the good news is it tapers off eventually. We're at -4 right now, and it feels like -10. Still under that snowfall warning here in the GTA, but again, we get through the overnight and into the day tomorrow, and the sun will quite literally come out tomorrow. We just have to get through tonight. And a reminder to everyone to always drive according to the road and weather conditions. I'm going to send things back inside.
Thanks, Jess. Be sure to join Heather Butts tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Natalie Johnson with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and online at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Jessica Smith and all of us here at CTV News, thank you for watching and have a good night.